So, a couple of days ago, I decided to no longer participate in any capacity in Twitter. Not exactly the same as deleting my Twitter account, as I explained at the time. Twitter is a site that changes over time. Twitter in 2020 is not the same as Twitter in 2008 or 2007. It changes over time. They have incarnations. The same is true for Facebook. The policies change. This is Twitter as of today, and I give an example of just a search for recent citations of tech rights in this case. That can be sort of useful if you want to track who's linking to your site. To be honest, the types of people who occasionally link to tech rights, they distort what we actually say. It can be all sorts of crazy QAnon thing and all sorts of Trump supporters saying complete nonsense. So it's not always that useful. It can actually be a source of noise, and as people generally know, Twitter is full of misinformation and nonsense, and anybody can say anything. And that's one of the reasons I quit Twitter. The other reasons were mentioned before. In the past, I mentioned the fact that cancel culture is a big thing there. People can distort things that you say, and then people get angry and they carry on propagating falsehoods, and there's a big riot. That's the kind of thing that also led to the resignation of Richard Stallman in 2019. So Twitter is a very, very toxic kind of thing. Brian Lunduke did a couple of videos, at least a couple, about why he's quitting Twitter. I don't think he actually did quit Twitter. I think he came back. But he found the place quite toxic, and this is something I actually share with him in terms of my opinion and my experience in the past 11 years. So I joined Twitter a long time ago. If you go through my account, it's not as though I'm just joining Twitter and kind of quitting in a rage. I have quite a few followers, and they're not fake ones. I never really followed more than like 1,000 people. I don't actually follow them in reality. My date of birth is showing here, so tomorrow is my birthday, and I'm turning 39 tomorrow. Twitter actually requests the date of birth. It requests phone numbers and so on. This is actually something that wasn't there before, but in order for doing verification, it will ask you things that shouldn't be expected from a site like that, to be honest. But this is what they do. And I don't actually write anything in Twitter. Twitter receives copies, as in kind of a bot thing, from my diaspora account, which is where I post my stuff. And this is where I suggest people go if they want to follow me. I don't check things in here anymore. I actually truly dislike Twitter. Earlier this year, I did an analysis. I'm probably going to add a link in this kind of a video, text analysis notes at the bottom, just to show. I analyze the kinds of things you're faced with when you're accessing Facebook or Twitter or any of the social media platforms, and how they distract people, and they're just basically a noise machine. I went through a whole bunch of reasons why the very there's almost 20 elements on the screen. It wasn't always the case. You used to see just tweets. They were organized chronologically. There was no algorithmic intervention by the company, and you could see what the people you followed actually said without the company Twitter intervening, and that's changed. So the sorts of things you see here, you can see many different elements along the lines, along the line on the left and along the line on the right. And each one of them has a unique, nature of distraction about it. If I go now and I go to the main page in Twitter, in here it tells me I have notifications, and this is a kind of potentially addictive thing, but I no longer check notifications there because I basically quit Twitter. It's just a bot of my diaspora account. This is even worse. They recommend people you don't like. They might say, follow Donald Trump because you mention him a lot, not because you like the guy. And then there's things like what's happening, and over time they added images to this thing, and the images are very distracting, and sometimes there's just provocation like this. Look, Amazon Prime. I don't know if this is sponsored. I don't think it is. Sometimes it is sponsored, but it doesn't say very much about what the topic is. It kind of provokes you into clicking, like, well, what is this about? What is this Gordon thing? We don't know what it's about. It's something about sports. You want to click on that, and you kind of end up scrolling infinitely and getting stuck on the site. And this is the kind of thing they want people to do. So this is extremely distracting. You really don't want this in your website, and you cannot get rid of it easily. I used to write a script just to hide all of these things. When I ran different browser, which is now become Falcon. But this is I'm demonstrating this on Firefox for the sake of compatibility, because Twitter, as I mentioned just a couple of days ago when I finally quit Twitter, was presenting people with this kind of message, and it says that on the 15th of December, it's the last day that the website will function as a website. After that, you have to run JavaScript on many of their what they call supported browser or device. So lots of old devices would no longer be possible to use with Twitter. That the site just wouldn't be accessible at all to these people. They already cut off third-party access APIs, so it means any application that's not Twitter's app will not be compatible. So Twitter is getting worse and worse. It's basically become just another Facebook. And if you think about it, Twitter was losing lots of money. I've been on the site since 2009. I didn't start on the site, and people pressured me to join the site because I posted in Identica at the time. And I posted almost 1 million tweets now. It's approaching 900,000 tweets. I spent a lot of time on the site. And the thing about the site is it's not what it used to be, and I think they lost money for about 9 years in a row. I think the first year they managed to turn a profit was around 2018. So they just tried to copy Facebook, the business model, the surveillance, probably selling data about people. If you go to the settings in Twitter, which is possible to do, you will find all sorts of options, like the sorts of things they call content IDs and advertising, all sorts of things that suggest that you're consenting to them selling data about you. So Twitter is over time just becoming another Facebook, and I think that's horrible. And the fact you cannot access it with various different browsers, just to interact with people, the fact that they make it very difficult to find people interacting with you. This is the head of Twitter. His name is Donald Trump, and he makes people angry. People respond, and Twitter is pushing ads. So they like this guy. He's very good for advertising. This guy apparently he still wants to be president with some kind of a coup d'état. But this is all stuff that's posted from diaspora, and it goes here as a form of a copy. But I'm no longer going to participate in Twitter anymore. I'm done, basically.